Ken, I'm excited to have you back on the show. Now, you have given us the idea for the title today, so you're going to have to fill us in on what is, for perhaps some people, a little bit of an obscure reference. What are we going to be talking about today with the crawling king snakes?
Yeah, so that I just been playing with that in my mind. It's just a reference to a Doors song, The Crawling King Snake. But yeah, I guess the reason for that is because we recently found the sniper who last shot the rooftop gunman. I won't call him Crook, so we don't have to argue about that again. So his name's David King, and we just discovered in his interview transcript with the Senate that he saw the gunman on the AGR rooftop crawling before he got into position to take a shot at Trump, which is huge because it contradicts his earlier statements that he only saw the gunman until after the shooting had stopped. So yeah, there's a Doors song called Crawling King Snake, and I just can't stop thinking of that whenever I think of this now. So it's
Because
a little
the
silly, but
no,
we're
no,
having
it's a
fun here.
good mnemonic device, I think, for people. And so basically, the sniper, his name is David King. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And we know this because he had a patch that said D King and that was captured on police body cam footage. And then about a month ago, around the anniversary, Donald Trump gave a interview to the New York Post, and he essentially doxed King because he said, you know, the sniper that saved my life. Of course, he didn't save his life, but he said his name is David. So I quickly Googled Secret Service and David King, and sure enough, there's a David King on LinkedIn in the Secret Service's Special Operations Division, which is where the counter snipers are embedded. I sent him an invite. I sent with a note saying, "Hey, would you like to talk? I think Trump just doxed you. You're the sniper that shot that final 10th shot." And about a day later, he deleted his LinkedIn.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's pretty much confirmation for me that that was the guy. And since then, actually, Susan Crabtree has named him David King too. So it's pretty much established fact. And this is really, really incredible stuff because I've been talking about this for a year now. That the Secret Service waited 15 whole seconds before returning fire, and 10 seconds after all the shooting had stopped. I believe that it was a local cop who actually stopped the gunman in his tracks. Um, and so, in the House Task Force investigation, David King said that he only saw the gunman, the would-be assassin, until after all the shooting stopped. He said, "I was observing the rooftops, didn't see anything. When the first shot rang out, I identified the location that Crooks was at, put my binos down, got my rifle. At that time, I was getting into my rifle and getting the lays of Crooks. That's when I assumed that 3 rounds and then 5 went off." And then a House staffer presses him forward. Further, have you seen Mr. Crooks at any time prior to the viewing him through your rifle scope? And he says no. That's a clear and definitive answer. He did not. He claims that he didn't see him until after all the shooting had stopped. However, about a month later, he was interviewed by the Senate committee, and this time, whoever the staffer is a real hero of mine because he confronted David King. They obtained the notes that he had taken immediately after the incident, which apparently the Secret Service just gave him in a document dump. And these notes say that he saw the gunman crawling into position before the shooting started. His notes say, quote, "I and my teammates positioned ourselves to observe that area that everyone was moving to. I noticed an individual, white male, white or gray shirt, low, crawling on the roof. I noticed an AR-style weapon on his hands. As I moved to observe through my rifle scope, I heard weapon fire. I looked up to see my engagement scope, looked back at through the scope, observed the individual shooting, and engaged. At that time, the shooter dropped out of my sight in the scope. I continued to observe the area as there were reports of, then he goes on. So To me, this is a huge scandal. I mean, King has been hailed as a hero throughout most of the mainstream media. Trump still views him as a hero, but this looks as about as bad as it can get, in my opinion.
I would say, and certainly deleting the LinkedIn after you invite him to an interview, I mean, that's certainly suspicious at the very least. Did you get a screen capture of his LinkedIn or anything like that?
Yes, I did, and it's somewhere on my Twitter timeline.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. It's important that people follow Ken. If you're interested in the Butler PA assassination attempt, I think you're going to want to go over to X and check him out at JD_cashless. Ken, I think you've become the subject matter expert on this assassination attempt for sure. You're certainly digging in harder than anybody still. I definitely we'll get into the transcripts and the screen captures and everything. You know, once we're done over here on this introduction, we're going to have a sponsor exclusive segment. People are going to be able to join us for that by going to substack.com/@KenSilva. And of course, people who are on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth will get that as well. So, I mean, what happens now, Ken? This is it? They're just done investigating this? Are there going to be any more? We don't know, right?
I mean, I guess, yeah. So we all know Rand Paul was the one to close the Senate investigation last month. I don't know if we actually discussed this. He closed the Senate committee investigation over the objections of Ron Johnson, who is still pursuing his own mini investigation, I suppose you'd call it. And even the Democrat Gary Peters was mad. He said, you know, this report that they issued last month, there's not a whole lot new there. They only interviewed Secret Service agents. They still don't have anything from the FBI. Rand Paul pretty much said, and I like Rand Paul. I can't believe he did this. He said, you know, it was severe incompetence, but we're going to move on. I guess he wants to devote more resources towards his origins of COVID probes and things like that. But to me, it's a big mistake. And I'm glad Ron Johnson is continuing to search for the truth. In fact, Senator Johnson issued a subpoena for all the FBI's records. And we did talk about this, including footage from that King Cone's ice cream store that you visited. Senator Johnson gave the FBI an August 1st deadline to comply with his subpoena. I emailed the FBI the other day asking them if they've complied, and they declined to comment. Senator Johnson's office has not responded to me. Unfortunately, I would be willing to bet quite a bit that the FBI just ignored the subpoena. And the question is, now what is Senator Johnson going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I bet you emailed the FBI and they deleted their LinkedIn also. They're like, oh, it's that guy Ken again. Delete that.
Yeah. Usually they ignored me. I was actually surprised that they declined to comment. Usually I just don't.
Oh, you mean
get a
they wrote
response
back
at all.
and said that we declined to comment?
Yes.
That's kind of a comment.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much a go fuck yourself.
Right. See, it's amazing, Ken, the work that you're doing there at Headline USA. Honestly, I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. I like this. I'm saying you're almost exclusively devoted to FBI malfeasance and government cover-ups, right? I mean, isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's what I consider my beat would be. You know, I did a pretty fun story today about this bureaucrat that teleworked from 10 different countries. So I will spread my wings elsewhere occasionally. But yeah, my goal is to write a book about all the assassination attempts. In fact, I already have a manuscript. We're publishing it through the Libertarian Institute, and I've got an editor named Will Porter who's going through everything right now. So we hope to have that out by the end of the year, and maybe then I'll be able to finally, explore some other topics. But to me, it's still the biggest story domestically in the country. I can't think of anything else besides the Epstein scandal that even compares over like the last 2 years.
Well, I agree. And frankly, the Epstein scandal is under the same umbrella. And that's what I mean. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you at all. I think it's an incredibly important topic for people to be interested in. Now, I feel like I've heard of Will Porter before. Is he well known?
His father's name is Gareth Porter, and he's a pretty well-known journalist. Yeah, he does great work over the Libertarian Institute. They published a bunch of books recently. Scott Horton, the founder, published a giant opus on the history of the Ukraine and Russia conflict and how kind of our CIA helped provoke that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, I'm really proud to be affiliated with those guys. They do top-notch work.
Yeah, and then of course you got mentioned on Tucker Carlson, for the book and everything like that. Ken, it's so weird, because I agree with you. I generally like Rand Paul, and I don't know why he would close this, but let's just back up to this guy King for a second, because it's also weird to me that, like you said, Trump sort of doxed him. Now, Donald Trump, he's a little bit of a New York smartass, and that is certainly, I would say, maybe my beat. I understand that very well. And it does feel like he kind of does things like that, right? Like if there's something that he knows he can't talk about, he'll just, and other things, he'll stick it in there in some kind of way. And I just wonder.
Yeah, I wonder too, but I think it could just be sheer, Trump being Trump, because I don't, maybe only a dozen people knew that it was D. King. It's just like those researchers, those really small accounts. So it wasn't very well known, and he only said his name is David, but it's pretty easy to put two and two together.
Yeah, like you've just pointed out, this is such an obvious and huge defect in testimony for the guy to say one thing and then totally another. We now have kind of a lot of examples of this, like Clay Higgins basically looking like he's trying to investigate the thing, but then when I come to him with this pretty comprehensive information that there are other people in Congress who I've spoken to about my photo and video analysis, and they told me, you're way more knowledgeable about this than anybody that we've spoken to, even wanted to get me in to testify. That was all blocked. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, the lawmakers themselves, including Higgins, don't seem to know a whole lot. It's the staffers that are doing the yeoman's work, and shout out to the staffers. They've asked some good questions. Like I said, this guy that caught King red-handed lying, bravo to you, sir, or ma'am, whoever it was. But yeah, we could tell this after the House Task Force issued its final report last December. Chairman Mike Kelly and Ranking Member Jason Crow gave an interview to, MSNBC Meet the Press, I think it was. And Crow talks about the fact that the Secret Service's drone wasn't working. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? I searched through all the reports, all the transcripts, and he just got it wrong. It wasn't drone, it was counter drone detection equipment. Like the Secret Service didn't have a drone that day. So the ranking member of the task force that was
Wait a minute. When they said counter drone detection equipment, where did that come from? Some other testimony from our buddy Eduardo Castro, right?
Yeah, that's the Castro stuff. And he talks about setting it up near the stage eventually, moving it to the command post, and not being able to get it to work until 4:10 p.m., which was 10 minutes after Crooks, if you're going to believe the official story, flew the drone. So they got the detection system up and running right after Crooks supposedly has his drone, which is just another weird timing. Yeah, I guess my point is that Crow doesn't even know the most basic of facts, and he was the ranking member of the task force. It's ridiculous.
But it causes me to wonder, is it that he doesn't know the facts, or is that an indication that perhaps someone is screwing up the lie? Because what exactly is counter drone detection? We saw the list. He was listed as the counter UAS operator. And detecting drones is not the same as counter UAS technology. Normally, you and I discussed this long ago, when we first met, that there's a lot of counter drone technology that is basically radio based. It is putting out a very strong signal that's intended to disrupt the command and control signals that are sent to the drone. Most of these things are still teleoperated. We don't have, or at least it's not widely known, that we have too many autonomous, like AI-driven drones, although obviously that's technology that's coming. Most drones right now are somebody is looking at video and piloting it from a remote control. When they overwhelm it with strong radio signals, the thing can no longer send and receive signals and it crashes. And when I started talking about the drones, and I said, remember Castro's really weird reaction to me asking him about what you're doing with a drone? I don't know. I feel like they're covering this up, Ken, and that you've just hit on something that could indicate the guy says the drone wasn't working. I think we're hearing a pattern of lies from these people, and not everybody is fully read into the program, maybe.
Sure, that could be. I'm just telling you the official story. And by the way, I am open to the idea that there were drones there. I mean, again, we've talked about this before. The staffers themselves were asking all the agents about this dot. And they're like, what is that? And I think like 5 agents agreed that it looked like a drone. And then they asked Castro, and he's like, no, that's an airplane, bro. So
definitely not a drone.
I'm with you on the possibility of drones, but I'm just going, the official story is that Castro only had a drone detection equipment, and he had been very poorly trained. I think he like took a webinar and maybe used it 2 or 3 times at prior rallies before he was at Butler. And apparently the Secret Service does have drone mitigation technology, such as drone guns, where supposedly you could like shoot it out of the air. But those resources were denied for Butler. So the official story is that Castro just had this detection equipment that wasn't working until after Crooks had the drone in the air.
Yeah, see, I just don't believe that at all. And I mean, again, I admit it's a bit of a tenuous theory in that we don't have definitive proof, but there is a lot of evidence that there were drones. Like you said, lots of video evidence, all this suspicious behavior from Castro and Palmer Luckey. See, these drone guns are pretty well known, but this is like what I'm talking about. This is sort of a microwave beam as far as I understand it. This is a drone jammer gun. It's pretty expensive. The Jammer Master. Let's check this out. Sounds like a hip hop name, but it's going to block GPS and GLONASS frequencies. See, I think this thing directs some sort of radio beam, a very strong radio. So you see, it's got all this, this has got some kind of strong radio beam that it's projecting out the front of it at the drone, and that kind of concentrated, let's read it. The high-performance drone jammer gun delivers 120 to 160 watt power output with 12 dBi directional antenna, providing an effective shielding range of 500 to 2,000 meters, depending on the drone's distance and distance from its remote control. 6 to 8 frequency bands. So this thing is putting out some kind of strong radio signal. It's not shooting a projectile at the drone. And it's my understanding that that's how most of that technology basically works. So I think this is the kind of counter-drone technology that you're describing that the Secret Service had that was denied. Now, who denied it?
That's a good question. We still have gotten a number of conflicting answers about that. I think Castro said like the equipment just wasn't available. That I kind of find that hard to believe. But if Congress didn't already close this investigation, maybe we'd eventually find out. But right now, it's just up to guys like you and me.
Here's another example of this. So this is ever-increasing implementation of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, also sometimes called unmanned aerial systems, UAS. Drones in modern warfare has yielded an on-the-ground race to develop technologies necessary to knock them out of the sky. One Australian developer is hoping to be a staple in that market. So the tactical drone shield, it's 56 inches long, and it's lightweight. It deploys a non-kinetic jamming technology and uses lithium batteries. So this is the same kind of thing that we're talking about, one of these sort of radio-based things. And, it's quite interesting, Ken, because This is one of these areas of technology that is so new that even people who are kind of experts in other things, you're an expert in guns or whatever, you might not know what the hell this is. Now, let's say you're Rafael Eduardo Castro and you want to fly some insect-size drone that's going to detect infrared and transmit to remote turret-operated guns in the trees. You might have some electronic equipment that nobody knows what the hell it is, and you're saying, oh, no, don't bring that drone gun, because if you start blasting microwave radio frequencies into the sky, it's going to disrupt my ability to control something. Now he can just tell us whatever he wants. Are they really, like, why? Let's back up again. Why would they send somebody who's poorly trained, who's never used, like, why bother sending it at all? Why not just say, oh, we don't need the drone guns, we don't need the counter UAS. It's like you have all this stuff, but the only guy who's there to operate it isn't well trained. I find that a little difficult to believe.
Yeah, I mean, the official story is that they're just on a shoestring budget. They denied Trump resources because they didn't want to make him seem like a legitimate candidate. But I think we both are very skeptical of the official story.
And certainly, doesn't that explanation, I appreciate your approach of starting with the official story, because honestly, it's like our mutual friend John Cullen says, we're auditing what they say. We're not just taking it out of hand and saying, oh, well, the government told us, so it's obviously a lie. Let's examine this thing fully. But see, even in their own explanation, the notion that they're on a shoestring budget and they don't want to give Trump a lot of credence as a candidate, why bring this guy at all? You're obviously paying him something. I mean, he's poorly trained, but yet he works for this mission support and test services, which is part of this big, fancy National Nuclear Security Administration. I mean, this is not some stupid little thing. This is part of this big Department of Energy installation, the NNSS. This is a major deal here. And Castro, that company that he was working for that was just listed there in LinkedIn, what's it called? Flight Services or something like that? I lost it here. But yeah, he's working for Mission Support and Test Services. I don't know. I just feel like these are not things that are hiring stupid people. And, it's not like if you told me, oh, we hired a DJ and they set up the sound equipment and, they had 2 weddings going on that weekend. So they had the C-level crew there and the sound had a buzz. Okay, I could believe that. But all these guys with this complicated counter technical, drone technology, they don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah. And let's not forget that the locals offered the Secret Service their own drone, which just would have monitored the entire site and obviously would have prevented the shooting as well, just because they would have been able to see the gunman right when he got up on their AGR rooftop. The Secret Service declined that, which is just another suspicious occurrence. I guess you could chalk it off to, the feds just being arrogant. But yeah, it seems like Castro's a little more well-trained than the official story says. And also his that Robert McGlennon guy, the mystery ATF agent, right. We believe it's McGlennon. He also has a deep background with the DOE and nuclear security. And I don't know if this is really the guy, but the smaller accounts, the researchers that have been picking apart the body cam footage, they think it's some guy with who's got a backpack with antennas sticking out of it, which is just I don't even know what to make of that. That's going to make me go schizophrenic. But
I'll tell you, that's something that you might use to control a remote aerial vehicle as you walk around and keep it in the line of sight, and certainly declining other drones and things. We're just about out of time, and we're going to carry on with this discussion when we continue with our sponsor exclusive segment. People can join us for that by getting onto Substack patreon.com/@KenSilva. I hope that people will support Ken, subscribe to his Substack there. You can also follow Ken on X at JD_cashless. People who follow me on X and subscribe there will also be able to get the sponsor exclusive video coming up right after this. You can also see it on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Ken, we're going to be right back in 5 minutes, and we'll dig in a bit more to Rafael Eduardo Castro and some of this mission support and technical services stuff, their connection to Anduril. This is how I found Castro here. So we'll be right back, everybody. Stay with us. Thanks for